Filler, filler, filler. It's a filler machine. Oh yeah. Dragon Ball Super is filling this entire series with episodes to drag out 40 hours. It's filler, filler, filler. It's a filler machine. Alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today giving you my episode 87 review of Dragon Ball Super. I kind of did a little bit of improv singing. I never did this and I probably never will again, but I felt like doing something a little unique this time. And as far as my episode 87 review of Dragon Ball Super, the consensus of this episode was very predictable, where Goku and 17 have to go up against these poachers to get back all of these animals, and obviously they needed an extra episode of 17 for Goku to convince him to join the Tournament of Power, which to me kind of seemed predictable. But to go on to the good things that this episode did, first off, I really like the ideas of Galactic Poachers. I think Galactic Poachers is a really cool idea because, in a sense, it adds more value to the market of poaching in general for Dragon Ball, because if you think about it, if you have different animals and organisms across the entire universe, it makes it more valuable to get an animal from halfway across the universe as opposed to just going to a particular country or a particular area to get it. And I think that was really cool that they exploited in a world that has all of these aliens and organisms. It's just kind of weird to think that there's only 28 worlds with mortal life, but let's just get past that point. So moving on, I think that the episode also did a good job of trying to restrict the level of power that 17 and Goku could use. And the reason I say this is because if you think about it, they are on a ship, so if they really use all of their power, they're either going to be exposed in outer space or kill all of the animals. So it was a good job that they kind of found a legitimate way to make Goku and 17 hold back, which was good for the episode itself. And Goku goes off to fight against all of these, you know, these random fighters, and he takes forever to do it, I might say, while 17 goes to confront this poacher. Now, this poacher, the main poacher of the episode, he, from what I've checked, doesn't have a name. I watched the entire episode 2 times. I saw, you know, Geekdom on Facebook, and I messaged him, and he said that he didn't have a name, and I also talked to Anime Live Reaction. So as far as I'm concerned, this guy doesn't have a name. If he had a name and I missed it, let me know. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm just gonna call him the Green Motherfucker. So the Green Motherfucker, he pretty much, you know, is obviously one of like those mafia-like guys in this episode, and 17's literally just sitting here the entire time. He could easily take this guy out, but his concern for the animals is why he's literally not doing anything. And the Green Motherfucker summons these 2 really cool looking guys with purple beam swords to fight against 17. And this was kind of an underwhelming moment because, to me, I feel like if you're gonna summon 2 badass looking guards with beam swords, even if they're weaker than 17, could you let them put up a little bit better of a fight? I mean, at least make it seem like a video game where, you know, you have to go through the guards and then like the ultimate boss is actually a fighter. And in this case, everybody was such a wimp, so it kind of took away from the tension. But it was cool to see those guards, and I will say it was awesome seeing them with those beam swords. I just wish they were a little bit more of a threat. But either way, you know, 17 easily wipes them out. And this episode brings to life a really interesting world problem. It brings to life the world problem of poaching. And that's something that we can relate to, you know, as people living in the real world in this Dragon Ball Super episode. Because if you think about it, a lot of the problems in Dragon Ball can't really relate to what we go through in real life. Like, you can't relate to intergalactic creatures that can wipe out your planet with a beam blast. Like, you can't relate to that in real life, but you can relate to poaching, and you can relate to the fact of the matter that real human people do go around the world, hunt down animals, and use their body parts for selling or, you know, some type of business. And that's something that was very interesting about this episode. They're using the Minotaur horns, you know, to create this elixir that might allow you to live an extended lifespan. And I thought that was an interesting way to bring real life problems into Dragon Ball, and I thought that was brilliantly executed. But you know, the green motherfucker starts to get nervous, and he's threatening to blow up the whole ship. And I actually thought he actually did nuke the whole ship, but it was clearly just a dream sequence by Beerus. I actually said in my preview from last week that I thought that he was actually going to blow it up as the actual episode was showing itself to be, but no, it was actually a Beerus dream sequence, and I thought that was a good way to trick the audience and create at least a form of tension, because you literally think to yourself for a second, oh shit, and then you're like, ah, just Beerus. So that was a good thing they did. And to go on to what happens later on, everything pretty much gets resolved. I don't want to narrate everything, but, you know, 17 is willing to give his life for the animals. Now, in essence, we knew he wasn't going to die, because 17's clearly going to be in the Tournament of Power from all of the, you know, promotional material. And in conjunction with that, I mean, do you really think they're going to let 17 die over a bunch of animals on a ship? Like, really? They're not going to do that. But it was good to see that 17 was willing to give his life for that. The principle of what 17 was going for was what was impressive to me. And I did like that. And it was also cool to take a nod back to Dragon Ball Z, where Goku was going to blow up, well, I'm sorry, when Cell was going to blow himself up. And you always go to Kai's planet, like it's the first place you think about. Somebody's going to blow themselves up, let's go to Kai's planet. And we find out that the green motherfucker is a fraud. It was a little, you know, it was a little firework thing that device actually did, and I really like that. I think it added a gag element to a quasi-serious real-world problem, and it was kind of funny. It wasn't bad, it wasn't horrible, but it was funny. And I also like how Jocko, similar to Mr. Satan later on, shows up and takes all the credit for what happens. Like, that seems realistic to the characters, so it's not really something I can critique there. And I feel like the best thing that made this episode, you know, solid at most, was the fact that 17 and Goku have a really interesting piece of dialogue at the end of the episode, where 17 saying, it's interesting how I was created, you know, along with my sister and the other androids to kill you, but now, like, we're gonna be on the same side now. And Goku's like, yeah, well, that's kind of been happening before. I mean, Piccolo, Tien, Vegeta, now Majin Buu, you know, everybody, you know, to some degree has been a villain to me at some point. And this has been a reoccurring theme in Dragon Ball, where we have so many antagonists or rivals become protagonists. So it was kind of taking a nod at the entire direction of the Dragon Ball series, and I really did like that. So, in terms of my criticisms, because you always gotta be fair and say the good and say the bad, not gonna lie to you guys, it was weird as hell seeing how long it took Goku to come to, you know, confront the green motherfucker with 17, considering how strong Goku is. And even if you're holding back, I mean, it didn't really seem like there were that many guards, and Goku can wipe them out with his breath. So I didn't necessarily like that. That seemed kind of forced. In addition to that, you know, the episode really didn't have that much tension, but it was a filler episode, so I'm going to grade this episode more on a curve. And the last thing I want to criticize about this episode is, aren't these guys super fast? When the green motherfucker had the remote in his hand, considering how fast 17 and Goku are, because this green motherfucker is clearly not an abnormally powerful character. So, in my eyes, it kind of was like, can't they just snatch that shit out of his hand, considering how fast they are? Because Super Saiyan 2 Gohan could snatch a bag of sensu beans from Cell, who's another abnormally powerful character. So I can't see how Goku and 17, even if Goku's in his base form, they can't snatch that away from him. That, to me, was the overlying problem of the entire episode, and it seemed like they were trying to force a random moment of tension, when in fact it was bullshit, and that was the point. It was supposed to be bullshit, but I'm sitting here thinking, you could just snatch this shit from him. You know, that was the one thing I couldn't get over in this episode, but other than that, though, guys, I have some discussion points for you guys today. 17 said in the episode how he wants to have a big ship so he can travel the world with his family. The first thing and the immediate thing I thought about was Bulma, you know, having her own cruise ship, and it kind of made me wonder. I mean, can't you like borrow it from Bulma? Bulma's like a billionaire. Why do you need all this money for a ship? Bulma could just let you borrow hers and you could travel the world. And in conjunction to that, it makes me wonder, after this whole tournament, do you guys think, this is the part of the review where I want you guys to respond to me, do you guys think that Bulma's gonna let 17 borrow the ship she used in Battle of Gods? That's my question. And the other question is, if he really wants his family to travel the world with him, don't you also think it would be interesting if 17 taught his family how to fly? I'm not sure if 17 can really teach that, if it's an art, but because he is a human cyborg, so he probably flies a little bit different from other people, but I'm assuming he flies the same way everybody else does. So my question to you guys is, wouldn't it be more logical for 17 to teach his family how to fly, or have somebody else teach his family how to fly, and they could just fly the whole world by themselves with no money necessary? And they won't be at danger because 17 would be with them the whole time. Just food for thought. These aren't criticisms. I just want to get your thoughts on the issue. And overall, guys, I did feel like this was a forced filler episode. I think it was an episode that was forced to, you know, try to make 17 join the team. It seemed like they needed to make an extra episode for all this to happen, when in fact, trying to protect your family should have been more than enough motivation, and it would have only have required one episode of Android 17. So honestly, guys, it wasn't a very good episode. It was average at best. It was serviceable because they had some interesting concepts in it, and I really did like the ending where when 17 said, "I'll join you guys," the screen freezes and you see like a little blue background behind 17. It's literally like you're playing Smash Bros and you just like unlocked a new character. So that was a cool little twist they did. It had a very video game-esque feel to it, and I would give this episode 3 stars. It was average. It wasn't really that interesting, but it had some interesting concepts in it. So for my preview analysis, I'm way more interested in next week's episode. Piccolo is using a multitude of attacks against Gohan, and usually if a preview only has shots of one particular element of an episode, it's usually going to focus solely on that. So I'm sure this episode is going to be like 95% about Piccolo and Gohan. And the question I have for this preview analysis is, how much do you think Gohan could really maximize in terms of his power in such a short period of time? Because really, if you think about it, Super is really slowing down these 40 hours. And I can't see how in just literally a day Gohan could get that much back. But we don't know. Let's see what happens. Piccolo is obviously my favorite character, and Gohan's one of them too. So I'm going to be really interested to see a throwback of, you know, Piccolo and Gohan training once again. And let me know what you guys think about this episode. Do you think I was too harsh? Do you think I criticized it right and also praised it where it needed to? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And let me know about the discussion points about, you know, Bulma giving 17 a ship. And do you think it would be more reasonable for 17 to fly around the world with his family? Let me know in your thoughts in the comment section below, and please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.